Hey everyone, welcome back to Outpost Gray. If this is your first time here, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Jack Scott, and every week I try to come to you providing you information in cybersecurity, innovation, and technology. And I'm really excited about our guest today. But before we jump into that, I just want to thank all of the subscribers here. If you are new here, welcome to our community. This is an inclusive community. Make sure you message down below, introduce yourself. We are all here to grow together. So maybe if you're new in the industry and you're trying to break in, this is the place to be. So I would highly encourage you, hit the subscribe button, come back. We're always here. If it's not an Outpost Gray show, it'll be a Two Cyber Chicks show. So every other week, those shows rotate. But I am always here. The team is always here to answer your questions. For everybody else that's repeat offenders, I love you guys. You guys are the best. And really quick teaser, we're going to be doing more live streams soon, so stay tuned for that. All right, so let's talk about the guests that we have on the show today. So I am really thrilled to welcome a true force in cybersecurity world, Terra Cooke. Now, if you've actually watched her on LinkedIn or followed her or watched her posts or anything, like, she is awesome. She's a big influencer in the space. She has about 15 years of experience under her belt, and she is making waves. One of her quotes that she has on her LinkedIn is "making magic happen." And I love magic. So you guys are in for a real treat with her today. She is also, what I love about her too, is she is on a journey for equality. And you'll see that in her post. She's also very keen in one of my favorite areas, which is governance, risk, and compliance. And her journey has taken her, and this is just a couple of things she's done. She was a senior information security engineer for the Colorado Governor Office of Information Technology. So we'll dig into a little bit of that and what that meant. And you guys know that I'm in the state and local space. So that's near and dear to my heart. And her current role today, she does cybersecurity, governance, risk, and she's a compliance manager. Not only on top of all of that, though, she is also a LinkedIn instructor, which is amazing. She's passionate about educating and mentoring our community. And we're going to talk about how she even got into becoming a LinkedIn learner. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's get our guest on the show so we can hear the stories and the lessons from Terra's mouth of the things that she learned along her journey. So let's do it. Terra, welcome. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Thrilled to have you on the show. It's been a little bit. I know I reached out to you. You're so busy. You're like content creation, everything. You just got married. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
So you're in Colorado. Love Colorado. Was there for like 10 years on and off. Are you originally from Colorado? Did you move there?
I moved here. So I've been here for almost 5 years now, which is really weird to say out loud with how much I've moved in the past, but I'm originally from North Carolina.
Do you love Colorado?
I do. I was not expecting to like it as much as I do. Like when I first moved here, or even before I moved here, I was like, whatever, like it's just somewhere convenient. But then over time, like I managed to actually find a really good community here. The sun is nice because I moved here from Seattle and I did miss that. And then it's like a good happy medium for me in between like a really like traditional big metropolitan city. So your Bay Areas, your New Yorks, but still has a small, tiny feel because I am from a small town. And I'm sorry if I get up in a second because my cat is very upset that I locked her out of the room. So I'm just going to
go get up. Yeah, it's fine. Well, I miss Colorado. It's one of my favorite. I always tell people it's my favorite state in the United States of America. So big fan of it. So enjoy it for me. So 15 years, like you and I think we've spent maybe not the same path, but we have definitely been in right around that same time frame. I always tell people I have about 15. I guess I could start saying 16 years of like combined IT and cyber experience. And I know for me in my journey, I actually started in IT and then went into cyber because cyber wasn't even a thing then. And I'm really curious, in your time of being in this space, how have you seen our landscape, cybersecurity landscape, really evolve over time? And has there been anything in particular that you've really paid attention to and you've noticed that shift?
It's funny that you mentioned like cyber wasn't even a thing because I was talking to somebody else like recently or whatever. And I was just like, man, when I started, it wasn't called cybersecurity. Like everything was just information security.
Yeah.
So even just watching the change from information to cyber and like the broadening of the scope of security over the years has been super fascinating. What else? Watching this is still very hit or miss, but seeing companies care more and simultaneously less at the same time about security, which again is bittersweet. It's always nice seeing when they care more. And to be very clear, when I say care, I don't even just mean from a financial standpoint. I mean people wanting to have the conversations and really learn and do the hard work, because I'm sure anyone in the industry can attest it is hard work to change a company into having security culture and not just security theater, or as I like to say, hand wave emotions around their security presence. So that's been really nice in throughout the course of my career, seeing those conversations happen. Also just like the amount of jobs, and not the quote that people are always like, there's 2 million open recs, which whether that's true or not, I don't really know.
Right.
But just in general, like when you look at titles, there
Yeah.
were very specific titles. It was like you were a security engineer, or maybe you weren't. I don't even remember when analyst started to happen, but then it was analyst. And now you got red team, blue team, purple team, GRC, incident response, which DART is now also a like term that I see all the time. We're acronym soup. Again, there was a time where there wasn't really that many acronyms, and now, or maybe there were always a lot of them, but whatever. Now there's even more, and that's stressful. What else?
There's acronyms for acronyms. There's like, I hate that. Don't you hate that when people put acronyms inside of acronyms?
Yes, and I'm just like, please. And you have SIMs and SEAMs and SOARs and CISOs or
Yeah.
CISOs. And
Oh,
it's
so much.
what's probably been the most fascinating, I will say, is over these past, not even a couple of years, within the past, I'd say six months, is seeing the push for governance, AI governance, folks. Like,
Ooh.
I think I saw a I think it was a chief artificial intelligence officer role pop up. I was on LinkedIn the other day and I saw like Microsoft is hiring for, what was it, a responsible governance AI like person. So I have feelings about AI, whatever. It's been very, very fascinating to watch that. And I'm interested more than anything, seeing how many people are really going to do the work and not just like ride the wave in the bandwagon. So that is a thing.
Yeah, actually, let's pivot into that and talk about that. So, AI, I mean, that's an area that's kind of unknown, and a lot of people are risk adverse. And I mean, people like organizations, they're afraid, so they just block it completely from their network for individuals to even be able to use it. But in my opinion, we need to face this like forward facing offensive measures, because I was just talking to somebody the other day, there are risks, there are vulnerabilities associated with some of these AI platforms that are vulnerabilities from, I think he told me 2004. Like there are vulnerabilities that assist. Yeah, it was wild. He was doing this report. He even told me, he's like, I'm actually not, I'm like, what is the CVS on it? He's like, a 10. He's like, so I have this report and I'm afraid of, I don't want to share that information because if a threat actor doesn't know about it, I've now shared it for them to be able to leverage as part of this AI capability. Terrifying, right? So with that being said, you have a SOC, or you have an auditing background with SOC 2 audit specifically. And I'm really curious to get your thoughts. And this is just kind of like, I've been thinking about this myself. How are we going to start? And NIST has a framework for this too, but how are we going to start auditing AI because, you know, everybody, compliance is not security. However, it is a step in the right direction. But how are we going to start doing those audits to ensure that we have the set of controls in place versus just blocking everything to protect ourselves?
I don't know. And honestly, I think a lot of it does start with taking that step back and looking at it from a governance standpoint to say, okay, if I want to introduce this into my environment, what are the risks? And depending on, you know, what sort of industry you roll in, whether it's healthcare or credit cards or government, you name it, it doesn't really matter. You also have to like take into consideration the legalities of it, because I'm currently in law school. So when you were like, you're busy, I am godly busy, ungodly, I should say, and kind of grossly. And so like we were having a conversation in the very beginning of one of our class, not even in the beginning of the class, at orientation. And they were like, yeah, all this AI stuff, not okay. And then one of my instructors, she was just like, you know, you can't write your papers using AI like that, goes against ethics and standards. And so when you start looking at, you know, ethics, standards, morals, legalities, who's responsible, who created the AI, what rights does that AI or the person that created it have to your intellectual property, your data, your insert whatever you want? Because when the whole AI like picture generation thing came out, and that was the hot new stuff on the streets, and everyone and their mom quite literally were getting their photos done. Great, they look fantastic, but and some people, I mean, if they accept the risk, that's fine. Like they knew that they were essentially giving their likeness away to this AI generator. If you're cool with that, great. We all accept our risk for our things. But for those that don't read it or understand it, what does that mean to you? So it's a lot of conversations, not conver questions, although that should be a new word now.
That should be a new word. I like it.
Yeah. That folks need to have before I feel like we can even get into the auditing of just like, what is the impact that it'll have to me and my organization? And what are, like you even mentioned, the threats that come with introducing it into our organization. And if you're creating a closed AI environment, okay, cool, that's a little bit better. But even then, like, how does that work for privacy, and what can AI do when it comes to opting in and opting out? It's a lot. Sorry,
it is a lot. Yeah, no, it is a lot. And it's a scary but interesting place to be in. I would encourage anybody that's thinking about getting to AI. I mean, now is the time, because you're on the pinnacle of change. But I'm just afraid that with the resistance that we have in organizations, just because, let's be real, we have so many other risks in the environment. AI is this unknown thing right now. So it's just like, just block it out. And it's almost like, block it out and it'll eventually go away, or block it out and we'll deal with it when it actually becomes a problem. And I think that's what it's going to happen, is it'll become a problem. Something's going to happen. There's going to be a breach. There's going to be something that happens because of AI. And then we're going to, as a community, have to come together and figure out how we're going to address this. And then organizations are going to start having to go into a more defensive measure instead of being offensive about it.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, because it is the matter of the time will tell of security being more reactive versus proactive. And again, that's when you start getting into your cough GRC people, to try and have a more proactive versus reactive environment. And I mean, sometimes it sucks, because I know for some companies, just blocking it out right now is the correct answer because of the different stuff that you may or may not be doing, and you don't want to open that up out to the world. But for others, it should be a legitimate conversation of, again, what risks we want to take, not take, how do we put measures in place, and so on.
I love it. Yeah, I think the conversation just needs to be had, and we need to keep it open. So you're a SOC 2 auditor. I know Erica would love that, because she's all about SOC 2, like total nerd on SOC 2. I'm an NIST person, but curious, as far as your experience leading SOC 2 audits for various different companies and your extensive background in it, have you noticed a time that, or actually, let me rephrase this. Can you explain the importance of these audits? We were just talking about GRC. You just brought that up. Can you explain to our listeners and viewers of why is it so important to do these audits, not just SOC 2, but just audits in general, even though audits aren't technically security? What would you say to that?
Also, I love NIST. NIST is my favorite thing. I tell everyone, like, my dream goal one day is to work at NIST.
Yes.
That's my ideal, like, if I were to have a dream place to work. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. To me, the reason that audits as a whole are important is because you find out your weaknesses. Like, that's the biggest thing. And I try and tell people, like, when I've gone in and done audits across the board, I'm not here to tell you your baby is ugly. I'm not here to tell you like you're a terrible person. I'm not here to do any of that. What I'm actually trying to do is, one, help you understand your vulnerabilities. And then two, if you've been having issues with your management to get time, money, resources, people, whatever, you can actually take these findings and say, oh my gosh, would you look at that? There is this thing here. Wow. it's bad, or maybe it's not bad, but whatever. Because let's all be honest, we've all like done our judging in some of our conversations. But you can go to your management and say, "Hey, because of this, I now need that." And you got to learn how to tell the story. That's
Yeah.
really what it
Yeah.
boils down to. Yes, audits are good and great for sales enablers. I'll never knock that because they are more commonly asked for now. And if you're in a traditional like SaaS environment, everyone and their mom, vendor management is going to be like, "Give me your SOC 2 report." And then you give it over and we all like rejoice. But it's more than just going through the motions of doing it. You have to really like take a step back and look at yourself and ask the question like, why do I want this? And if it is just a sales enabler and to check a box, while
Hmm.
I have personal feelings about that, I will never judge someone for going about it for that reason. But I encourage all security professionals, IT folks, like anyone who's going through, the audit process. Yes, it's not pleasant all the time. Yes, it is a time suck. The industry is trying to do things to make that better. But really try and look at it from the long game of, I'm going to get stuff back from this, and I want to
Hmm.
be able to take that stuff and do better by it, cover down on the vulnerabilities, or you just learn like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that this thing was actually misconfigured, or
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I never actually thought about that being a risk because we were a startup and we are just now in kind of like a stable place, and so it
Hmm.
it fell by the wayside because it just did.
Hmm. I think it is also really important to have that relationship between your auditor and between the clients, because there have been times that my team has not done it, but I know that there have been times that organizations have faced those auditors that have come in and they're just like, your baby's ugly. Here you go. And regardless if they know, because most organizations like have a general idea that they don't have a good cybersecurity framework or a good cybersecurity just overall like foundation within their organization. So telling them that doesn't make anybody feel good. And we've just got to be more intentional at developing that relationship and realizing that, not realizing, but recognizing that when we walk in there, being an auditor, being a consultant myself, walking in there, and the first thing you need to do is build rapport with them, build that relationship, understand what their concerns are, what is the business impact of that. And then when you communicate these gaps that you find, what I did is in one of my reports, I actually, before I even got into the gaps, I told them all the things that they were doing well. It was a little challenging for one client because they literally had nothing established, but the things that they did, the very minor things, I made sure to like highlight those in a big way before getting into the gaps. And that alone has created such a great relationship with our client that they are now looking at building a sim into their environment, which is amazing. Like they didn't literally have anything in place. And I see that that's where that security piece comes in. But it does start with that relationship to discuss those findings that are in the audit to be able to help them mature overall.
Mhm. Absolutely.
It's all about interpersonal skills. People think that being technical is the only thing you need in cybersecurity, but I am telling you right now, interpersonal skills will help immensely when working with clients, and you've got them. I mean, talking about interpersonal skills, I want to talk about LinkedIn Learning. I mean, you're a big mentor in this space. You're also like on top of your plate of going to law school. I didn't even realize you were in law school. Like, good God, woman. I just finished my master's. I was full-time grad student for 3 years, and well, actually only a year and a half of that. It was wild. I'll just say it was a wild time, that year and a half, going to school, working full-time, going to school full-time. So bravo on you. But on top of everything you've got going on, um, you're a LinkedIn instructor. Tell us about that. Like, how did that happen? I mean, not everybody gets that opportunity, but you landed it and you've been crushing it.
Thank you. So I think it was about a year and a half, almost maybe 2 years ago. One of the senior content managers who I connected with on LinkedIn, ironically, because she works at LinkedIn, but that's neither here nor there. I don't even know how I connected with her, but she had made a post and was just like, "Hey, we're looking to create more cybersecurity content. Share the names of anybody who you feel would be like a good content creator and make courses." And me being me, which sometimes my ego is very sometimes I have a very large ego, probably more than I care to admit, and that more people would even know. And I was like, "Me, obviously, I'm great." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And like she emailed me not long thereafter, and I was just like, "Oh man, I was kind of just like joking around, and I wasn't expecting to actually get contacted." So that's how it started. And originally I was supposed to make my first course, oh man, like early last year. And then life happened. And so got pushed, and like I felt really bad because I pretty much just like fell off the face of the earth. And then I like poked my head back out and was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But like, is this still an option? And she's like, yeah, of course. I'm very thankful for her to give me the opportunity after I talked a good game, disappeared, came back, and she was just like, yes. But yeah, that's how I started LinkedIn stuff.
I love this story because it highlights a couple of points that I always share on this show. And the first one is networking, all about the networking. And LinkedIn is so critical, one of the best platforms. I truly love LinkedIn. I have other socials platforms, but I feel like the networking piece it's LinkedIn. It's always been LinkedIn. So you did that. And then the second thing, ego or not, I don't think that you're really egotistical, in my opinion. I love your posts. I think they're hysterical. But you know, a lot of times as women, we think that about ourselves when we want to speak out or speak our truth. And we're like, maybe my ego's too big or whatever. But I think it's awesome that you were like, pick me, I'm awesome, because you are. And that takes a lot of courage, sis. And there's a lot of people that would not have done that because we do this all the time. And I still catch myself doing this. I know somebody that's better, that would have been a better option. Maybe I should recommend them. And there's nothing wrong with being like, no, I'm awesome. Pick me. And I'm so glad that you did that.
Yeah, it has definitely paid off. And even though I talk not necessarily badly about my ego, it's like I know I have one, and it has definitely helped me out over the years. Good, bad, ugly, whatever else in between. And a lot of it comes with just being like, what's the worst that can happen if someone tells me no? And I'm just like, I've been told plenty. Like, I'm a middle child. I got told no more often than not. So closed mouth don't get fed. I'm gonna just go ahead and ask.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. I mean, you never know unless you try. And failure is not a negative. Failure is the way that we learn. And that is something I've had to embrace as I've started this show, and I've been putting myself out there more and more. You're going to fail when you put yourself out there. You're going to have critics all the time. You just got to hold true to it and realize that failure is not a bad thing. I think that's and I've been working on that, but just, oh my gosh, I know the woman from Spanx. She's told this story like several times of how she was raised, and that her dad every day would be like, go out, fail at dinner. You guys are going to share. What did you fail at? And just to have that mindset and to look at failure in such a positive way. I've been trying to do that myself of like, meh, whatever. What's the worst thing that happens? They say no. Okay. Next opportunity. That's what no means, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you, on top of LinkedIn, on top of being going to law school, you also are a big advocate for equality, and you've posted about it on your LinkedIn. So can you share, along your cybersecurity and your technical pursuits, you've also been a champion in what people will know as intersectional equality. How do you feel being in that space has influenced or shaped your career today?
Oh man, it's everything. Being at an intersection just by being Black and a woman, I already sit at an intersection. And then when you start expanding beyond that, I'm in STEM, I'm queer, I'm like, there's a lot. So it forces me to have to go about a lot of things differently. I remember I was talking with an ex of mine, and I mean, I was 30 something. So he was basically also in his 30s. And he was just like, yeah, I've never really had to apply for jobs before. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, I just knew someone, or like I had a friend who knew someone, regardless, connections. Growing up, trying to get into like the corporate world on a connection, I had no idea what that was. Like, I knew about connections, but it's still very different when we're talking about like corporate America jobs, getting your first like jobs. And even then, when I look at majority of my career, not all, I will say, not all my jobs, but majority of them I got because I had to apply, which means I have faced a lot of rejection. So I'm kind of like prone to it again, and being a middle child. Not only that, but then when you are Black, people have certain like things that they assume about you. So I would go and face that. And then being a woman, it's the thing that most women or film presenting folks have probably had to deal with is people talk over you, people assume you're the secretary, people take your ideas quite literally. You'll say something and then someone will say the same thing, and then everyone's like, oh my gosh, what an original thought. And you're like, I'm in the Twilight Zone because I totally just said that, but that's cool. Everyone can like pretend I don't exist. So being able to play to all of my strengths, having grown up in small town North Carolina, and like I try to explain to people when they talk about like, oh, the hiring pipeline, I get super bent out of shape and I get very, very passionate very fast because employers, colleges, you name it, I don't really care. They are not going to these communities that have had to be creative and genius and just scrapping together to survive like day to day. We're talking for years. Why can't you go to these communities that have to do this and put them in your environment and see what they can do for your environment, because they just think differently.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the same way as a white woman. I don't think the same way as a white man. I don't think the same way as a black man. I don't think the same way as a straight person. So I try and take every single little bit of things that I've had to encounter throughout my life and bring them to work and experiences, which I think more than anything, it gives me a lot of empathy. Sometimes too much empathy, I will say. But one of the big things that I realize, in my opinion, that's not enough in security is just humanity and empathy and emotional intelligence. Oh my gosh, I see your cat still. And like all these other things, because in doing so, I feel like we could potentially lessen the issues that we have with burnout. We could actually like listen to people and like truly support them as a holistic human and not just someone who's like beat boot behind the keyboard. And for people that just want to be treated that way, that's great. And I also recognize that there are some people who were thrown into people management positions that didn't want to be there, but it was just like checking the box, if you will, where, well, you've been here for, 8 years and we're hiring on someone else. So you're the next best bet. And they're like, bro, I don't want to do that. Like, I just want to do my cute little thing on the side, versus there are people in, the security world and technical roles or whatever who have a passion for developing others or trying to be there for others. I think I'm rambling now. I don't know where
That's us. We're like the want to develop people and help people. Like, yeah, this is now you're over there. But yeah, that's totally us though. I am like all the people. But do you ever get overwhelmed when because there are times that I just want to help everybody. And then I have gotten completely overwhelmed. I'm much better about like knowing, like, for example, I did a post last week about a resume review. I got so many resumes, OMG. And I was like, I finally had to put a post out. I'm like, I have to say no. Like, I can't take any more because I will be overwhelmed. Do you ever find yourself in those spaces? Or are you pretty good at balancing that now? Yeah.
I am not good at balancing it. There was a point in time, I want to say it was last year, where I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden people were like, can you mentor me? Can you mentor me? And it was like, yes. Yep. And then it became, I couldn't mentor anyone because I just didn't have like the spoons to mentor people, like run my own life. Unfortunately, I was dealing with a lot of like death at the time and my own poor mental health. And so it all came to a head where I literally just like dropped it all. And I did not do it in a very graceful way. Like, if anyone is watching, I am genuinely so sorry that I did not go about it the right way. It's not great to ghost people, at least not professionally. In your personal life, it's debatable depending on the circumstance. But
it happens. Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. But it was a lot. And that is probably the most bittersweet thing, is that I want to help as many people as humanly possible. I just know it's not feasible. And I'm still trying to find what is like my sweet spot number, right balance of being like, okay, cool, I can do all of this. And even this year alone, I haven't really been saying I haven't been mentoring anyone very specifically because I have so much other stuff going on in my life. At least I had the forethought to be like, you're not going to be fair to other people if you try and mentor them. So just like, unfortunately, you can't do it.
I was just like that too. When I was starting to finish out and do my capstone and everything, it was like October of last year. I quit all my live streams, quit all my mentoring, like everything, because I had to be selfish. I literally was like, I was completely overwhelmed. All my weekends were usurped with studies. And I was just like, if I try to give to anybody, it needs to be me. And you just have to stop sometimes. Oh, Man, we could keep chatting, but I know we're at time. I want to offer you an opportunity for final thoughts or to share with us, because you've got a lot going on. Is there anything you can share with us, like a sneak peek that you're working on or anything like that?
So I'm working on another LinkedIn course. I cannot say what it is yet, but I am working on another one that I'm actually super excited about. I don't know when it'll even come out, but it's happening. I guess the biggest pieces of final advice for things is going back to one of the things I touched on before: companies, schools, whomever. Go out to these different communities, go out to your communities of color, go out to the socioeconomic communities that are not glitz and glamour. They're a little bit grimy and for some people ghetto, but who cares? Because you don't know what talent you have out there that could absolutely change your world, and you would change theirs too. But more importantly, they would change your world and your perspective that you have on people. For any budding, aspiring GRC folks and just everyone viewing GRC as a whole, it is a technical talent. Stop saying that it's not. We do have to go in and look at your systems and have conversations and advise you and write the policies. Don't treat us like a silo. Like we have to do all the things. I would assume we make great CISOs. I don't know. That's always just my assumption, because I say we make a lot of slides and so do CISOs, and we all have to just talk through the business a lot. So 1 and 1. Otherwise, everyone kind of just stay safe this lovely holiday season. Take care of yourself, take care of your mental health. Mine is in its weird space, kind of going down the poop hole. But take care of yourself more than anything. I know it's hard right now for a lot of folks. There are a lot of job seekers, and it's still a very, very weird market. So please do what you can.
I love that. Final thoughts. Yeah. Holiday season's coming up. So Terra, thank you. I know how busy you are. So thank you for making the time to come on the show and talking with the Outpost Gray community.
No problem. It was fun. I enjoyed myself.
Yay. All right. See ya.